Hi, friends, it's Heidi M, and I'm back with another interview. I will be speaking with filmmaker Chloé Robichaud, or Chloé Robichaud, who is a francophone filmmaker from Quebec, Canada. We're going to be speaking about her latest film, her fourth feature, Two Women en Français, Deux, femmes or. So the film was actually based on a play by Catherine Léger, whose play was actually based on a film from 1970. This version of the story focuses on Violette and Florence, who no longer understand what is happening to them. So Violet is on maternity leave and Florence is on a work leave. And they're both on edge. They don't feel anything. They feel disconnected from themselves and their partners, respectively, as well. So as neighbors, they kind of build this camaraderie because they're both filled with a feeling of failure in a way. And despite them having the career and families, they're not happy. So we notice in the film, I'm not going to give too much away because I want you to watch this film, but I just want to set it up for you. Florence has a first infidelity, which is sort of a revelation for her. It's in the context of wanting to feel desired and wanted because her partner, David is no longer seeing her and desiring her. And then she has this connection with Violet where she tells her what's going on, and Violet is realizing that she feels the same way about her husband Benoit, who's actually having an affair himself with someone that he works with. So it's a very relatable story in terms of it's a snippet of life and what happens when relationships change, either because of work dynamics or health dynamics, because one person is not doing well and the other person might be okay, or vice versa. The one that was doing okay is no longer doing okay, or there is a change in terms of the size of the family. A child is born and things need to be kind of readjusted as part of the partnership. So that is sort of a bit of background on Two Women. I don't want to speak about the film anymore other than to tell you that I enjoyed so much about the film. It is a laugh out loud film, so you better be laughing out loud whether you're watching it with friends or on your own. I recommend that you see it with friends though, because it's going to be more enjoyable. And it also cinematically looks really great. They use 35mm film as an homage to the original, but also to bring in some cinematic components into the movie. It is a francophone film, so it is in French, but it also is very universal in its story. I hope that you enjoyed the music as much as I did. I do enjoy music from other places, and there's a lot of great francophone music in this film. I made a note of it myself to look out for the soundtrack, which I just learned is also going to be available. So for now, I'm going to leave you with my conversation with the director of Two Women, Deux femmes or, Chloé Robichaud. I hope you enjoy our conversation. I'm joined today virtually with filmmaker and producer Chloé Robichaud. Nice to meet you, Chloé.
Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you.
So you've been in the film scene in Quebec primarily. You're based in Quebec, and you've traveled through the film festival circuit with other films of yours. For people who might not be familiar with your filmography, maybe let's talk a little bit about your start in film. Where did that come from, or when did it start?
Yeah, well, actually, I think as soon as I understood that it was a job, maybe it was 10 or something, I was like, this is the job I want to do. I want to direct film. So I went into film school. I moved from Quebec City to Montreal and I went to Concordia. There's a great film school there.
Mhm.
And, starting doing short films. And I was very lucky because I did one short film just right after school that's called The Herd Leader. And it
Mhm.
was a competition at the Cannes Film Festival. So that made a kind of a splash and it gave me a kind of some attention. And I had this idea for a feature that was called Sarah Prefers to Run. So I was able to get it financed, and it all started from there. So Sarah Prefers to Run was in Cannes too, in the Un certain regard section. And after that, I went and did other features. Two Women is actually my fourth feature.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been working in TV too. So kind of doing both. In between films, I do TV. I was actually just doing Law and Order in Toronto last month.
Very
Uh,
nice.
so I know Toronto a bit now. Yeah.
Nice. Well, it's nice to have you here, and it's nice to speak with you about your fourth film, Two Women, Deux femmes, and Or. I'm curious about the title in English because I think it loosely translates to Golden Women, but what was it about just two women that made sense for its English title?
Yeah, well, because it's just talking about the experience of being a woman nowadays. So I think it felt relevant, just like two women. It's about these two neighbors, and also the solidarity they will have in the film, and the translation felt maybe off. In French, it would be like two women in gold, but it
Yes.
wouldn't. It's not saying the same thing. In Quebec, it's really an expression saying they're just. Uh, Amazing human
Right.
being, but it wouldn't give the same sense in English. So I felt Two Women was just kind of straightforward and just yeah, it's about these two women, trying to reconnect with themselves and trying to express their desires. So
Mm-hmm.
it made just sense. Yeah.
For sure. So, from my information, you've worked with Catherine Léger in terms of this is based on her play, which she also used the original film from the 1970s for her play. And so, how nice is it to have, the playwright kind of work with you and giving you some freedom to make this film?
Well, first of all, I was already a fan of Catherine Léger's work. She's an amazing playwright, an amazing screenwriter. I had seen all of her plays before, and I was often like sending her a text, being like, "Hey, if you want to send me something, I'd be really interesting." I had I was under the impression that we would be a great team,
Mm-hmm.
that the kind of tone that we use would, I don't know, fit. So that was it. And she came to me with that idea, and I really wanted to be on board because I had seen the film in school, the film from the 70s, and
Right.
I thought there was a really rebel freedom to it that I wanted to bring back. But to work with Catherine was just awesome because she's brilliant. She has some amazing ideas, but she was very open to listening also to my ideas. And I think we were respecting and trusting each other.
That's right.
Um, and I think the goal was to have as many conversation as we could before filming, so we would really understand the film together, the vision of the film. So when we were filming, she knew where I was going. There were no gray zones, and she knew I was respecting the script.
That's right.
Uh, and yeah.
And was she involved in the casting, or was that something primarily your task and pleasure, I guess?
It's part of my task, but I wanted to include Catherine in some of my decision.
Mhm.
She was actually there in the auditions for the Two Women. She
Mhm.
was there. She was not, she was trusting me, but we had discussions after. I wanted to have her feedback, but it was fairly easy. We had the same, it was Karine and Laurence for both of us.
Mhm.
Blew us away. Their sense of timing, their authentic- authenticity. They're just amazing actress, and we were like, for sure, it needs to be Laurence and Karine. Yeah.
Sure. I will say that I'm impressed with both of them in the film. So let's talk about Karine Gonthier-Hyndman and Laurence Leboeuf. And it's interesting in terms of casting because Karine is more of the comedic
Yep.
person, and Laurence has done a little bit of drama, and this is more an array of for her in terms of comedic films. It seems almost seamless that they become friends. So I'm assuming that's also built within the crew and the set that they also had enough, I guess, they felt comfortable with each other and yourselves.
Yeah, and I wanted them to have time to get to know each other, and we went for many dinners all together, coffees, and we had a lot of conversation about the nudity also in the film, what it represented for us, and we had amazing conversation actually about how women are portrayed in films and personal experiences, and I think it brought us really close, brought us together. So when we started filming, they already knew each other. The chemistry was already there,
Mm-hmm.
and it kept building for sure. And now they're great friends. They're really in each other's life, so that's beautiful to see. Yeah.
For sure. I think it translates really well on screen. I enjoy watching them. I've seen the movie twice.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Well, it's also, I mean, it's research, but at the same time, it's also, you find little nuggets on repeat viewings. But I say that of a lot of films that are really well done. Repeat viewing is required. I liked the way you kind of give us a glimpse of their lives day to day, because one is a stay-at-home mom because she's on maternity leave, and the other character, Karine's character, is on leave from work for health reasons. So was that something that was part of the play as well? That was the story for the two women?
Yeah, because in the 70s there were housewives, because that was
Mhm.
what was, we had a really patriarchal society in the 70s. But
Right.
Catherine thinking was like, why would they need to be stuck in their homes now? Why a
Mhm.
woman is living between her walls nowadays? And we were like, well, if one has a baby, that would explain. And being in a depression, and being in a professional leave because of the depression would also be an example of that. And I think it the film might resonate for people, because I think these are universal subjects right now,
Mhm.
that women and men can relate to that for
For
sure.
sure, especially over the last few years with pandemic
Absolutely.
and being stuck at home.
Exactly.
I think it's really,
Yeah.
really relatable. I going back to your point about having discussions around sexuality and nudity, I think it's so well done because it's pretty much like a slice of life, if
Mm.
that makes sense. Of this is how we walk around in our house. Sometimes we're fully clothed, sometimes we're not fully clothed.
Yeah.
Was there any opportunity for them to improvise anything, or was that something that was maybe not on the page, but you had discussed with the characters or the actors, I should.
Well, with nudity, with intimacy scenes, we didn't want to improvise much, because it was important to respect really the limits of everyone. So we had an intimacy coordinator, and we had a lot of talks beforehand to really choreograph everything. So they knew where it was all going. You don't want to get on set
Yes,
and feel like, oh, am I going to get naked now or not? Or I think it's a lot of anxiety for the actors. So I really wanted that to be clear before going on set. But they had a lot of, I would say, freedom in the preparation of the film.
right.
Uh, Actually, the idea of having Florence character being naked while she's just getting out of the shower and
Yes.
talking to her husband is Karine's idea.
Right.
And I was like, why did I say that? Because I need to be fully naked. But I was like, if you want to do it, I think it's awesome, because it represents such a slice of life. Everybody does that.
For
And
sure.
it's talking so much about what is a long-term relationship looking like. Because she's naked and he's not seeing her. He's like
Exactly.
just to her, and he's not seeing her, and not seeing her body, and that's the whole drama of their relationship, that he's not really looking at her anymore.
That's
So
right.
that was a great way to represent that.
I'm glad you said that because I had a note to myself when I was watching the film about how they are not feeling seen. Like the
Mhm.
women, I mean, in terms of, their significant others or, you know, perhaps even with themselves, right? They feel like they're disconnected, like you said, and they have to find themselves. And I also want to bring the characters in of the husbands, because you have really great casting that I think complemented the two women. So you have Soleymanlou as David, who is Florence's partner, and then we have Félix Moati as Benoit, who is, Viv's or Violet's husband. And what was that conversation like with the four of them now in terms of discussing the dynamics of the relationships?
Yeah, well, I think for us it was like they're all of them are disconnected from their real emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Felix's character is a new dad, and we can feel that he has a lot of trouble adapting to that situation. He's he's um he doesn't want to confront his reality, so he's kind of fleeing away
Right.
from the whole situation. As for David's character, he's in complete denial, and I think people can relate to that. Sometimes you don't want to see things. He doesn't want to see that his relationship is not going well, that
Mm-hmm.
he's not having sex anymore. But he prefers the status quo because it feels safer this way.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all in that kind of like stuck in that status quo, everyone, but there's a limit to that. And
Right.
I think that's what the film is about. At one point, it needs to burst in some way. We need to confront ourselves to our truth. Yeah.
Absolutely. I like that. I also liked how they have to confront themselves, and for the women looks different from the men. And I want to bring in the discussion around the different, I guess, handy people that show up to service our lovely women. So I understand that they are well known in Quebec. Some of them are in comedy, and I feel like there's something around this film that is very Quebecois, and in not just in its humor, but it's also in the music that you've chosen, and again, the people that are kind of supporting the story. So, how did you connect with the comics, and then kind of presented the story for them as well?
Yeah, well, my partner in life is a comedian. She's actually in the film. Has a small part of a handy woman too.
Love it.
And so I do have in my circle of friends a lot of comedian. Um, so I think some of them that I approach, they knew me. They knew the kind of direction I would have for this film. I think they knew it would be very like respectful.
Right.
Um, so and the script was just so funny. So for them to be a part of it, I think they just wanted to go with it. But it was fun. But at the same time, I wanted people from outside of Quebec
Mm-hmm.
not be able to tell that it's like, oh, why is it weird? It doesn't. I want it to be in the same, that everybody's on the same page in the same film. You don't want to have someone doing a one-man show
Right.
suddenly in a scene. Um, when we were in Sundance, nobody would think it was a comedian,
Right. Exactly.
all felt like they were actors like everybody else. So that was really important in my direction to think about that, to
Mm-hmm.
think about outside of Quebec, the reception of that. So when filming, I really had that in mind always. Yeah.
Yeah. No. And I said I don't know every single one, but if you watch enough, you know,
Yeah.
Quebecois stuff. But I also think that's also the the kudos to you and the crew in terms of having this response at Sundance. It was a winner at the festival, and it's received some really great like positive reviews, and also just feedback in general, reactions from the audiences. So maybe let's talk a little bit about what that was like for you in terms of presenting at you've been to festivals before, but what was it like with this film
Mhm.
in an English speaking country like at Sundance in the US?
Yeah, I was honored. Sundance is an amazing festival. It was my first time there, but I was nervous too because, like you said, there's a lot of cultural references in the film. It's a lot of dialogues too. It's going fast. So I was worried. I was like, okay, will people not get the jokes because you have to read subtitles? But after 10 minutes in the screening in our premiere, people were laughing like every 20 seconds. So I felt a lot of relief. They were really connecting with the characters in the story.
Mhm.
So it was a blast. We had an amazing time, and since then, it's just been an awesome ride for the film.
Busy but awesome. That's great.
Definitely busy. Sure. I need to come
And
back.
thank you for being here today. I'm sorry I wasn't there to meet you in person. I know we're in the same city today in Toronto, but I should say that you are going to be at a screening later tonight for a Q&A. But don't despair, the film is going to come out more publicly so people can see it across cinemas as well. And we were talking about the cast a lot, but I also want to talk about your cinematography. You work with Sarah Mishara and you shot on 35 mil. So you negotiated with your producers to be able to do that.
Yeah.
How awesome is that? And what was that? Again, what was your conversation with Sarah around the look? Because it's very intimate, like you said, it's in rooms and apartments.
Yeah, because when we were reading the script, Sarah and I, we were worried about how do we bring cinema into this, because it's all in small spaces, in rooms, small apartments, and the 35 came to mind. And also there was a way to just have an homage to the older film. We actually shot on the same format, exactly the same
Okay.
format of 35. Um, and I like the retro vibe in the film because there's something like how can I say nostalgic, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time it's a modern film, but it's like we're saying, did things change that much since the 70s, and sometimes I'm worried that we're going back.
Sure.
uh, so
Mm-hmm.
it was my way of saying that through the cinematography of the film.
Mm-hmm. And how small was the crew when you were filming in, for example, in the apartment complex?
That was tricky because inside the rooms it was very hard. So part of the team, I don't know how many, but part of the team was outside, and it was cold. It was winter.
Oh, no, no, I saw there was snow on the ground.
Great, and we kind of did green rooms outside of the set for the crew to be there. But for the sex scenes, we were not a lot, maybe four people in the room with them. I really wanted to be as intimate as possible in the room. Yeah.
For sure. I don't want to forget the other. There are two other women in the film. They're supporting characters of Ellie and Jessica. Can you talk a little bit about the characters and their casting?
Yeah, Elise played by the amazing Juliette Gariépy, who was in Red Rooms. And Ellie is she's just, if I can say, a no bullshit kind of girl.
Yes,
She's
yes.
saying whatever comes to mind. She's very authentic in a funny way, but also in a refreshing way.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, she's the only characters that saying the truth uh,
Exactly.
all the time, because most of the characters are like we talk about hiding their truths, and
So true.
she's out there, so she's refreshing in that sense. And the character of Jessica, Sophie Nélisse, she's a young neighbor, and I like it because I think we project on her some of our how do we say prejudice
Yes,
that I
prejudices.
have. But she's such good looking and kind of sexy. But as we learn about her, she's very conservative, and so I think it was an interesting character. How the sometimes we project things that are not right onto people. Yeah.
That's so true. And I like how there are not that many characters to follow, but they all
Right.
represent someone we know or people we
Mhm.
know or maybe even parts of ourselves. I think
Yeah, I'm
that's
glad.
also a testament of the good film, but the good script as well, in that there are nuggets there that we can identify with.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you felt that.
Yeah, I mean, I also was laughing quite a bit, and I'm sure my neighbors were wondering what is she doing again. Similar to the apartment
The
complex,
crow,
right?
yeah, the
The
crow in the
crow.
film. Yeah, yeah.
I have never thought of a crow that way before, but now I have another way to think about
Now
it.
you
So,
will. Yeah.
what what was it about the crow? Do you know? Or Catherine write it in the script, or was that added?
It was in the script. It really was a metaphor for her of that inner desire that they were just not listening to. And we have this
Oh,
character in the beginning of the film, Violette. She's kind of hearing that, and she doesn't know where it's coming from. Um,
mhm,
I like the way Catherine is writing because
mhm.
she always had these great images that just are of kind of a bit off, but in a really
Right.
funny, weird, good way. Um, but yeah, I was going to say something about the end of the film, but I won't. I want people to see it.
Oh,
But
yes,
some
yes.
clothes that were not in the script that I really added because I thought that was interesting.
Okay. I think I might know what you're talking about, but okay, yes. Yeah, let's leave it so people can find their own nuggets as
Mhm.
they watch the film more than once. I want to ask you, I'm going to run out of time because I always do, but I want to ask you about, do you have favorite songs in the film? Because they're all really great songs, and I've discovered some great songs through this film.
Oh, I'm glad you did. It was just so much fun to do that, the soundtrack. There's different one. The Louise Forestier, Pourquoi chanter is an amazing song, beautiful song. But if you want to dance, there's a Me Too song in the film that's just really fun to listen to in your car, let's say.
Hmm.
Um, so for different reason, you have Louise Forestier, who's more like how poetic, and
Right.
Mitsu more a pop song. And the soundtrack of the film will be released at the same time. The film
Oh,
will
okay,
be
great.
yeah
Okay, I was going to ask about that so we can add it to our playlists.
yeah.
Just because we have a couple minutes, what is it that I know we were being asked this before, but now that you've journeyed with the film for a while, what are some of the what is it that you're hoping that audiences get from the film, and or anything that has surprised you in terms of audience reception?
Well, first thing, if people have fun, that's good. Because it's meant to be fun. I love when I hear people laughing. I think
Mhm.
we need to laugh
Yes,
nowadays.
more loudly too.
Yeah, we need to laugh, so that's good. But I think the film exemplify that life is not a straight line. There are bumps, there are complexities in relationships, and can we just accept that? Can we just feel less guilty for not being perfect?
Right.
So I think if people get out of the theater and feel less guilty of not being that perfect, I think I did
Hmm.
a good job. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think regardless of age, this the stories are relatable, regardless of where you are in your lifetime and your relationship status too.
Absolutely. Yeah. A funny thing, when I started working on the film, I didn't have children. And through the process, I had children. I have twins. They're 3 years old
Wow.
now, and the film is speaking to me in a different way now,
Hmm.
because I know what kind of a tsunami effect children
Right.
can have on a life in a good way, but also, it can be difficult on a relationship. So
Hmm.
the film is saying some things to me even now. Um, so who knows?
It's so true. And that's what I mean about like watching this film another time later on, right? It's gonna bring something to us in a different way. And I think
Yeah.
that's what's so key about good filmmaking.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Chloe. It was great to speak with you. I know you have a lineup of people that want to speak with you. So thank you again. So Two Women is opening across Canada, starting I think May 30th, and the soundtrack is also going to be available, as you said.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, and have fun tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.